Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2018 Sunseeker 2850Slef. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. On your right, you're going to have your observation camera so you can get up to your roof and periodically check all your seals. It's going to be very important you do so. It's going to stop any water from getting in. Once water does make its way in, it spreads pretty quickly. Damage happens quick and it does get expensive. So again, making sure you go up there and check those every once in a while is a very good idea. You got storage access here to get to the back inside, back bumper, and then right down below here you're gonna have a 2-inch receiver with 7-pin wiring. Just keep it in mind there is some weight restrictions when it does come to it, so just keep that in mind. Your spare tire is also gonna be down underneath there, but there is a safety chain holding it up which you're gonna have to remove before you do get that down. If you open up this side compartment, it goes straight through to the other side. You're going to notice, again, you're getting that back storage compartment to give you back access right to the back in case you pile the side full. You got a starter kit down back there in the back. It does come with that 15-amp park adapter. Just keep it in mind whenever you're using it. It's realistically just to keep your bus plugged in and keep the battery charged and the fridge running. You're not going to be able to run an air conditioner off that. And then also included in that starter pack is going to be a 15-foot water hose, 10-foot sewer hose, and some other miscellaneous goodies. You got your 30-amp supply cord here. Taking a note, they ran the 30-amper. You can run it through the flap of the floor. That way you don't have to leave this compartment door open and no critters can get inside. Now let's say you want to run up your generator. Before you start your generator, you got to unplug, or if you weren't plugged in at all, and you just have to plug it into that 30-amp outlet there. And when you are running your generator, you can run that air conditioner. It is equipped to do so. Right here, you get your fresh water fill. So if you're out boondocking, your campsite doesn't have water, or you're out traveling, you just want to carry a little bit of water on board, that's where you're going to be able to do so. That is what your water pump draws off of. And then right down below here, you get your main sewer system. Open this guy up, you get your city water connection. So if you're out of site with service, you just start a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the need to run the water pump. Then of course you got 2 tanks, your black and your gray. You always want to empty your black tank first. This will be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets, and then you can come behind that with your gray valve. It's typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. And again, you're going to have another one of these little access holes in the floor so you can loosen that off when you get to your campsite. Run all your hoses through here, and that way you don't have to leave that compartment open, leaving you susceptible to critters and stuff like that. And then it does just screw nicely into place, just like so, for whenever you're traveling or parking it again. Gas fill, pretty standard. Just keep it in mind, the generator on this unit is a small engine. Typically small engines prefer to have 91 octane. Now of course that isn't feasible for most people to run 91 octane in this, so it's not the end of the world if you do use regular gas, but it is going to be very important. It's probably a good idea to throw some fuel stabilizer with every fill. That's just important to keep that generator, run it up about once a month. Just keep the fuel flowing through it. That way it doesn't just sit gung up and then not work for you when you do need it to work. You got two storage compartments. This last one, again, this is just gonna be a service port for your generator. If you pop this guy open, sorry, not the service port for your generator. That's storage. This is the service port for your generator. So great. Get everything, and let's say the switch inside didn't work. There is a manual switch here again, and if you ever had any issues with it, that little thing there, this little switch here does have a few different fault codes that it could be throwing in case you had any issues with that. It's how you check your air filter, your engine oil, and all this stuff like that. It's probably good to keep up on maintenance with that as well, just along with the bus. In the front, standard Ford chassis. But salesman did make a note about your camera in the back, how you wanted it to work, and we didn't get it. It wasn't working at the time. I did figure out how to use it. It's going to be it is at the beginning stages of when these cameras first came out, so it's a little bit different to use it. So if you turn the key to the accessory position, it's going to turn on. You get that popping up. Go to your settings, hit down here. You see this camera input section, hit it. It's going to say normal or reverse. It doesn't matter whichever you do hit it on. If you hit it on reverse or normal, it operates the same way. But as soon as you do hit that and you start the engine, that camera will be on full time, and it isn't going to allow you to access any of the other features of the stereo. I know that is one downside. That unfortunately is just the way it is. So let's say you were driving, you get to your campsite, you can always turn that on, and then if you want to start traveling again, you're going to want to be able to change your radio stations or whatever else you want to do with it. You can turn the key off back to the accessory position without the engine running. Hit the home button. Sorry. Go back into your settings in the accessory position. Go back to your camera input, hit off. Then if we start the engine, that'll allow you to get back to all your stereo goods. So tuner, iPod, USB, Bluetooth, whichever you prefer. But that is how you use the camera. No, might be more inconvenient, but that is the way it is. Again, up front, standard 4 chassis, other than that. And then special note, once we get inside, when we're awning and slide out control, it's going to be very important you have the parking brake set and the key off and out of the ignition. If the key is in the ignition at all, you're not only not going to be able to open your slide, but you also won't be able to run your awning. It's just an added safety feature so that while you're driving, neither one of those things can fault and open on you, possibly causing a damage or an accident. Hot water service port, opening that guy up. Whenever you first get to your campsite, it's important you give that pressure relief valve a pull. There should be a shot of water coming out of there, letting you know that the tank's full. We currently have the tank drained and ready for you to pick up the unit because the unit is winterized, so it's completely bone dry. There's antifreeze inside the lines. That's why there's no antifreeze coming out of there now. So that's why it wouldn't be safe to fire up right now. It's very important, especially if you go to fire up on electric, that you do check that there's water in there first, as it doesn't take long, just for maybe 1 or 2 minutes for that to burn itself out with running without any water inside of it. Now the rest of these compartments are going to be storage for the most part, minus this one being the propane access. So this is where you're going to be filling it up when it comes time to, once you run it down. And then to turn it on, you do just have to turn it counterclockwise, nice and slowly like I'm doing, to open up the flow of the unit. And you do have to open it up all the way and close it all the way whenever you're not using it. Fridge service port. You got your range hood vent. It's very important. You undo that whenever you get to your campsite, whenever you're using your stove. That way you can evacuate those fumes as you are creating them. But whenever you're not using it or you're traveling, trying to remember to snap it back into place. That way you're stopping any excess dust from getting inside the unit. Of course, if the unit was parked, you'd be stopping any birds and other critters from getting inside again. Inside here, again, storage, but you're going to notice this little back wall here. Undo this, flip this down. It's where you get access to your water pump for winterization. That's also where you're going to find, again, that bypass hose. So you pull that back, you see this valve, you turn it the other way, stick this into your jug of antifreeze. You can run antifreeze through these systems. That back storage compartment, I've already showed you, it's the same thing as the other side. And now for the best part to get inside, you're going to open up that door. Special note, you're going to notice this door, when it's open all the way, if you want to go run your awning right now, it is going to run into contact with your door, probably causing damage. The same for closing it. So it's always very important whenever you're running your slide out to try and hold that door, because it's on a gas strut. Hold that door just that little bit while you're running it in or out. And then you got that button right here. Hit extend, awning's going to start making its way out. Once it does hit its full extension, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and a little flap hanging down. Sometimes that flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple feet and then try putting it back out again for that flap to come down. It's totally normal. Whenever you're running this out, it's always a good thing to keep in the back of your mind the wind speeds. Once the wind speeds do start picking up, it's going to be pretty important. You make sure you bring that awning in, that way you don't run the risk of bending anything. Now that this awning is fully out, you can see the back of the metal tube and a little flap hanging down. If it were to start raining, you can take any line front or rear, pull down at the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now, of course, if it's a sunny day and you want more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just make sure that before you bring the awning in, you do remember to push both arms back to straight. That way it rolls in nice, straight, and even. It's not going to bend anything. And then bring it in. It's as simple as holding the retract button, of course, while making sure you hold your door so that it doesn't come into contact, rub, scratch, or bend. And the awning's going to start making its way in. Once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motor will automatically cut out. Now let's say you were You had your awning out, it rained, blah, 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 the wind's picking up, you want to bring your awning in. Just make sure at your next earliest convenience, if the awning is wet, that you make sure you roll it back out and allow it adequate time to dry off. Otherwise, you will run the risk of building up mold inside of there. Nobody wants that. In addition to that, you do get 2 light switches, one doing the scare light, the other doing the awning LED light. And then on the far left, you get your battery disconnect switch. So with it in the on position like it is now, the batteries are connected to the unit and the 12-volt system inside is enabled. If you turn this to the off position, that is not only going to disconnect your batteries, but it does also disable the 12-volt system, so you wouldn't have any lights or anything like that. So if you ever plug it in, you're wondering what's going on, just make sure that you do have the batteries connected. They do have to be connected to the rest of the 12-volt system to work. Underneath the stair, that's where you're going to find that battery. On your right, you get your fire extinguisher. Just like home, pull the pin and shoot. Take a step on inside. If you come up, we're just going to come to this back wall here. So we're going to get access to all the main living space lights for the kitchen and the living room. And then, of course, you get your slide out control. Now, before you ever run your slide out, it's always a good measure to just do a quick visual check inside. Make sure you check in between the slide out and the wall that there's nothing that's gotten caught in between there and shifted your travels. Sometimes that does happen. And then, of course, just on the outside, making sure you have enough adequate space to put it out all the way without running it into something. Once you check that, you can hit that button down, which is out. Slide out's going to start making its way out. You'll know the slide out's at its full extension when you hear the motors wind up and quit. So there you go. Slide out's out, you are good to go. Now for the rest of it, you got your monitor panel system. So you push the button, it tells you the corresponding level, of course. And then you do get your generator start stop switch. So before you go to fire up your generator, because your generator runs off gasoline, it's carbureted, but it does have a fuel pump. So to prime that fuel pump, it's important you do prime it before you try to start it, especially if it's been sitting a while. Push and hold that prime button. The little red light on the gen is going to start up. That's priming the fuel pump. Just turn the fuel pump on, priming fuel into the carburetor. Push it for about 5 to 10 seconds. Keep it in mind, sometimes it can take a few tries to start, especially if it's been sitting a while. Hold the start button. Again, it doesn't always start the first time, so if it doesn't, don't panic. Just try the prime again. Hold it for a little bit longer the second time. And it does fire right on out. Then to stop it, you just push the stop button and it'll automatically kill itself. But again, if you did want to use that, you would have to hook up that shore cord and plug it in, of course, because there is no transfer switch installed on this one. Water heater, you can either fire it on gas or electric. If you go to fire it up on gas, I will go over a few gas notes first. LP detector right here near the ground. If this ever starts going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit, at the side of the unit, and open up some windows and vents to get some fresh oxygen inside of here. But once the system is turned off, it does slowly allow air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it has to be purged out. I always recommend customers, when they first get to their campsite, come into their stove first thing and just lighting it first thing. And that's just the easiest way to prime the system, because you get to decide how long the gas runs for and how many sequences you try lighting it for. If you want to go to fire up your water heater, your fridge, or your furnace, those will only try lighting themselves a few times before they throw a fault code at you. If you don't know what the fault code means, it could throw a little wrench in your weekend. And here at Transcona, we do want to keep the good times rolling. So that's why just come to your stove, give it that quick fire. It's just that sure shot way to make sure there's propane coming through. Today it fired up pretty quickly just because I had the system running earlier, of course. Sometimes it can take a few minutes. So just make sure, because it is a gas stove, that you're always running your range hood whenever you're using it and being safe. So if you run that gas valve on, make sure you are hitting that igniter every few seconds. Because if you didn't, and there would start to be a buildup of gases, and the ignition source started, there could be a minor combustion. If your face was nearby, you're probably going to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes, and that doesn't sound like fun. So again, just be safe whenever you're doing it. As soon as you turn that gas valve on, just making sure you're hitting that igniter every few seconds, so that way you don't get that. To get the stove to light is pretty much the same thing. You turn it over to the pilot option, push and hold the knob in, hit that sparker. The stove pilot can be exceptionally hard to light, just because the gas pilot is so small for that. It's only pushing out a little bit of tiny bit of propane at a time, so give it a few seconds. But there you go, you'll see that pilot lights. Once it's able to stay lit without you pushing in on the button, you can turn it up to your desired temperature, and it does fire right on up. This little button here turns on some illumination knobs as well as the oven light. And then up top, you do get this cover. Now, just of course, being careful with it, you always want to make sure you allow the stove to cool off after using it before putting this down because it's glass. And just being gentle with it whenever you're using it. That way, again, you're being that much nicer with it. But then back to the water heater. Turn that button on. Water heater tries lighting itself 3 times. If on the 3rd try it doesn't light, its fault light's going to come on. In that situation, turn the switch off. Give it about 5 minutes to allow itself time to reset, and then come try lighting it again. And that does go for everything propane in here. If it doesn't light the first try, could be a fluke, could be just a purging issue. Always try it a 2nd time. Honestly, you might even have to try it a 3rd time, but after that 3rd time, that's when I would assume there was an issue. Make sure you start smelling for gas and being careful with that. But that is it for this panel here. Now inside your slide out, you're gonna have tons of accent lighting. They are just on their own center push buttons. And there's going to be tons of accent lighting throughout as well, just making sure when you find it, you use it. Tons of storage throughout here. You're going to have storage everywhere. Just make sure you're mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You're not going to be wanting to affect any of that. And now when it comes time to passengers, you do have the 2 front seats. And these seats here do also have seat belts. We got 2 that are showing right now. Sometimes the buckles do fall through to the bottom, so you might just have to get underneath and get them out. And the same thing does go for the couch. There's seat belts for them. They are just tucked underneath. If you wanted them pulled back out because you're going to have more passengers in here, we could pull those through for you. A lot of people just do prefer them in because they don't have passengers sitting on the couch too often. They are recliner couches as well, so you just have to pull on that knob and the front kicks out and you can keep your feet back and relax. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. One quick pull will allow them to retract back up. Up top at the bunk, that's where you're going to find your TV, which is on a swivel mount. And then, of course, you get this one cushion here. It comes out of the place just to allow you some extra headroom while driving. But if you pull on it, it does come down into place just like so. And then you could take your ladder, hook it on there. The prior customer even had these little storage net thing put on there, so you have that. The ladder for the bunk is up top. Sound system pretty much just like home, minus the fact that you're gonna have your different zones. You got A, B, and C. A will be the front, B will be the back, C would be exterior, which you don't have. You got your kitchen sink, hot and cold water. You're going to notice this false panel here. This does give you access to the back of the water heater for those winterization valves because you do have to bypass this water heater when it comes time to it. Other than that, it's a pretty standard kitchen area, and then you do get to your fridge, freezer combo. Just having to push on the button to open it up. Controls at the top. Power button to turn it on and off. Whenever it's in the auto setting, it's going to first search for shore power. Once shore power is taken away, it'll automatically switch over to gas. But it is, again, going to be important that you already have the gas on and purged, so that way it allows for an easy transition. And always make sure that when you do go to fire it on gas, make sure you give it a few minutes and you don't hear a beep or the check come on, because if that check comes on, again, it could be a purging issue. The fridge just means the fridge didn't light, so it's not going to get cold. And then whenever you're using your fridge, if you've used it for a week straight and then you're not using the unit for 2 weeks, make sure you allow this time, good time to cool down. Stick some rags or some towels inside of there because there will be moisture from it cooling down from freezing cold. And if you don't wipe it up, it's probably going to accelerate the growth of mold or mildew, which is gross and nobody likes to deal with. So again, just avoid that by drying it right away. Again, storage all around. And then that does bring us into our bathroom. The light switch for the bathroom is on the wall here inside the bedroom actually. And the light switch for the bedroom is right beside it. You're probably asking yourself, well, I don't like this. There's no privacy in the bathroom. Well, they did think of that. The door here does have a little magnetic latch here down at the bottom. So if you're showering, had guests, you can just open that completely. It blocks it off pretty good. You can't see anything at all. So you can get between the shower and the bathroom with ease. Other than that, it's a pretty standard bathroom, minus the fact that inside here you get your main GFI plug. 90% of the plugs are going to be hooked up through GFI, so if you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd check. Just making sure that you didn't trip it for any reason. It is based off moisture, but sometimes they can trip for the weirdest reasons. Then that does bring us into the bedroom. Pretty standard bedroom space. Bed. If you pick up at the foot, it gives you a little bit of extra storage space, and if you pick up under there, that gives you access to inside of here. This isn't made for storage though, keep in mind. It is just a service port, so try not to store anything under there, and if you do, don't allow it to rub into anything or bump or jump around at anything. On the wall, last but not least, we get our thermostat for the unit. So you push that power button, that does turn it on. It's going to bring you your last known setting. So in this situation, it is on cool. Now, whenever you're in cool or heat, you got your different fan settings. I always recommend leaving it in auto. It's then going to pick the best fan setting based on what you have the thermostat set to and what the room is at. Let's say, for example, we have the room is set to 65. Once the room reaches 65, the air conditioner will automatically cut out. When you're running your air conditioner, you do two different options. You can either run these units open, in which case it's going to dump all its air straight down, or you can close them off and it'll move its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout the unit. One more time down from there is the dry setting. That's just a dehumidifying setting, so it's going to try and take as much moisture out of the air as possible using the air conditioner. Last setting is the heat setting. So when you're first go into heat, it's going to first use just the air conditioner and what's called a heat pump. So essentially it reverses the action of the air conditioner. Standard air conditioner, you're blowing out hot air, blowing in cold air. When the heat pump is installed, it then reverses it to allow it to blow in the hot air and blow out the cold air. If that isn't adequate enough, because I mean it is electric heat, it's not going to be super minus temperature friendly. Neither is this unit when it comes time to use it. Like, realistically, the plumbing system is just not built for it, so just keep that in mind. But if you hit the furnace button, it's then gonna kill your heat pump and fire up your furnace. Furnace runs off propane, so again, making sure the system's purged first is gonna be very important. And then just pushing the button to turn the furnace off once you're done using it. Otherwise, it's going to run continuously. And then whenever you do turn off the furnace, it does run for an additional 3 minutes to allow itself time to cool down. Mode button, again, brings you into the fan. Fan's just moving air around using the air conditioner, no heating or cooling involved. It has a sleep function as well as a timer function. And then just the power button to turn that off. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.